Hey, y'all. So I got you up to the time of Jesus. I got you to rabbinic Judaism. I got you to the Talmud. I got you to all those places with this idea of the Posek, the one who is able to bind and loose. So the things that are bound on earth are bound in heaven. The things that are loosed on earth are loosed in heaven. So Jesus told Peter that he would be that guy because of his confession that you're the Christ, the Son of the living God. And he says, look, flesh and blood didn't reveal that to you, but my Father who's in heaven. And so therefore I tell you, you are Peter. And on this rock that I'll build my church. And then so whatever you bind on earth is bound on in heaven, and loosed on earth, loosed in heaven. So then we looked at the office of the Posek. And what does that mean? So who is that person? That's a person who binds and looses. That was exactly the job. So now I got you through the Talmud. So I got you the idea that there are these special rabbis who other rabbis appeal to say, okay, what's bound and what's loosed? So you've got a situation here. So what does it look like? Well, this is what happened. So is this okay? Like, for instance, with betrothal. So in Judaism, the way that you take somebody to be your wife is you say a certain thing to them. There's certain forms of words that are used. And so then it becomes, okay, what if they said it this way? Is that going to be binding or not? Do we have a betrothal based on that? And so there's certain rabbis who say, yeah, that language is okay, this language is not. And then so you got these are the kinds of disputes. I mean, I'm telling you, it gets really interesting. Then it becomes things like, okay, so we're going to divorce my wife. I'm going to give her the get, which is the document that says I divorce you. So then it becomes, okay, so what if they give it to a foreigner and the foreigner signs it this way, and does that count? We got to have two foreigners to do it because, well, we can't trust foreigners, but if there are two of them, then we can assume that you did. So, I mean, there's just those kinds of disputes, but they can also be much more bigger than that. So now, okay, so Jesus, though, has commissioned Peter to be the Posek. A little bit odd because Jesus is not the one who typically would have commissioned somebody to be a Posek, but when Jesus says it, he says, in my kingdom, that's who you're going to be. I've given you the keys to the kingdom. So when I go away, so now let's look at that and think about that for a second. So Jesus has said, look, there's a whole different kingdom coming. I'm leading some people who believe, leading them out of Judaism into another kingdom. So I need somebody to be in that office going forward. And Peter, that's you, buddy, because you get it. You got it right. You got the right answer to the question. So that's you going forward. Now, does that remain just Peter? Well, here's a way to look at it. Okay, so let's go to John 19. And I'm going to look away for a minute because I'm going to read it off the screen. So on the evening of that day, the first day of the week, the doors being locked where the disciples were for fear of the Jews. This is the night of the resurrection. This is Easter evening. Jesus came and stood among them and said to them, peace be with you. And he had to because they had sinned against him. So when he says, peace be with you, that like brings down the temperature in the room, brings everybody's blood pressure down a little bit, their pulse rate slows. Whew, he's not mad at us. He hasn't forsaken us like, well, we did him. So he says, peace be with you. When he said this, he showed him his hands and his side. He showed him the wounds to prove that it was him. So when then the disciples were glad that they saw the Lord. They knew, hey, this is him. And he's been resurrected from the dead. Jesus said to them again, peace be with you. So he says it twice. He's multiplying that peace. We're all good now, right? You know who you're hearing it from. As the Father has sent me, so I'm sending you. And when he said this, he breathed on them. And he said, receive the Holy Spirit. If you forgive the sins of any, they're forgiven them. If you withhold forgiveness from any of them, it's withheld. What did he do? He made them all Poseks. That's exactly the job. So on that night, he made all the apostles Poseks. We don't see any other place where he gives that same authority to other people. He gave it first to Peter, and now he gives them to all of them. And then he's going to restore Peter gloriously in John 21 on the beach. And it says, feed my sheep. So he's elevating Peter. And what's the basis of his elevation? Do you love me? Do you love me more than these? That's the basis. But he committed that to the apostles. And then the apostles' job would have been to commit it further to other people. We'll look at that tomorrow.